Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am turning right back around doing a quick video here. Before I stepped out this morning, I wanted to make sure I did a response to Jeff's last thread. He basically did a video about a week or two ago where he was talking about, just kind of with different stuff that was going on for him. He kind of missed the 90s and was asking us about, like what are some 10 of our top records from the 90s. And of course, in the VC, anytime you start talking about top 5 or top 10, it's impossible for us to do that. So what I basically did was just picked maybe 6 or 7 records from kind of hip-hop, R&B, I guess what you maybe label, which is kind of rock, and then kind of from grunge and metal, and just kind of showed a few pieces there. So that's what I'm going to share, Jeff. Playing in the background, Danzig. I'm sure you guys know all about that album. But anyway, let's kind of jump into it. And why don't we start with, the grunge and metal sitting right here. So let's do that one first. Some of these I know are very kind of cliche, but I guess that's also, I guess the record has to be so great and so large that it becomes cliche. So that's a compliment, actually, in a way, I think. But anyway, Metallica's Black Album from 1991. I think it's impossible to talk about the great albums of the 90s without incorporating that one. One that I hated when it came out in the 90s and really didn't start liking it until the 2000s, which is White Zombie. I despised this record when it first came out. I didn't get it. I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. It made no sense. I thought the video for Thunder Kiss 65 was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and I just cannot get enough of it today. So that became one of my favorite albums from the 90s. I'm sure I've told that story before in a past video. My second favorite metal song of all time is Cowboys from Hell by Pantera, so how can I not include this as being one of my favorite albums from the 90s? My favorite band, of course, their debut album came out in the 90s. This is Godsmack, self-titled Godsmack. This is from 1998. That came out. And here's a classic. I'm sure a lot of you feel that way about this album. This is just a masterpiece right here. But Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy, Infinite Sadness came out in 95, I believe. So that's definitely a classic from the 90s. And arguably, this is probably my favorite album from the 90s. I would have to go with Stone Temple Pilots' Core. I love everything about this album. I love the sound, I love the production, I love, just everything. This is a perfect album. So that would probably actually be my favorite album from the 90s, as far as grunge and alternative and everything. And these last two are about as cliche as you can get, but at the same time, it's impossible not to say these probably weren't the two most powerful albums from the 90s. And we're talking about Nirvana's Nevermind and Pearl Jam's 10. Like these bands or not, there's no way you can deny how these two albums changed the world. It's just, you just can't. So yeah, you definitely have to include those two, which both came out in 1991. Matter of fact, I think Nevermind came out like 4 months or 5 months before Pearl Jam did, or something like that. But anyway, to have two records like that come out in such a short period of time within the same year. So that'd be my pick as far as grunge and metal. Let's just say, I guess, rock in whatever degree you want to say. These are some of my favorite albums that came to mind. Song for song, I think one of the best albums ever, which is Fleetwood Mac. This is The Dance, which is basically a live performance. I have the DVD of this as well, but as great a live performance as you'll ever capture on CD. Just the songs on here is more or less kind of a greatest hits anyway, but just a perfect record. I would love if they actually pressed that on vinyl. If they have, I'm not aware of it, but a perfect album. Definitely one of my favorites. As well as this one, Seal. Certainly one of my favorite albums from the 90s as well. And this is another guy which I've talked about before, just like Rob Zombie. When I first heard him, didn't get it, thought it was the dumbest thing in the world, and now he's become I mean, just one of the most incredible artists in the world to me. So definitely have to put Seal in there. This is one that might surprise you, but then again, coming from me, probably not. But Paula Cole, This Fire. You know, I thought when this came out, which was 1996, I believe, again, from front to back, a great album. This was a really, really good album. I listened to it like crazy when it first came out, and still do. But, you know, Tiger, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? I Don't Want to Wait, Hush, Hush, Hush. I mean, just some really, really good songs on this album. And it did get pretty big, but I still don't think it quite got the recognition it deserved, because she made a great album with that. Certainly one of the top female albums from the 90s, in my opinion. Live, Throwing Copper. I do know they pressed this on vinyl, but I've never had an opportunity to get my hands on one. They're usually pretty expensive. But again, a very, very good album from front to back. Some real classic songs on there. My favorite one probably being Lightning Crashes. And the last three from, I guess, your rock category from the 90s, you got to go with U2. I mean, again, this is great stuff on here. One of my favorite songs by them is on this album as well, which is Fly. I think that's an awesome song, but a lot of great stuff on here. So that was definitely one of their best pieces of work. And then the band that I remember when I bought a CD a while ago, I bought their greatest hits on the CD, and on the front sticker, on the front of the CD, it said the most rock and roll band of all time, which I think really sums them up very well. And it's the Black Crowes, Shake Your Moneymaker, as well as the Southern Harmony. So I have to put both of these as two of my favorite rock albums from the 90s as well. I mean, I don't know, just the Black Crowes to me were just always the band that just really took everything back to just the nitty-gritty, bluesy lick of just rock and roll. You know, I mean, the songs like Sting Me, Remedy, Thorn in My Pride, Twice as Hard, Jealous Again, She Talks to Angels. Just as pure rock and roll as you can get. So those are definitely two of my favorite albums from the 90s as well. So those are the ones I picked from just kind of more of the general rock category. And then, I didn't pick a ton here, but let me show kind of from the hip-hop and R&B. I think one of the best R&B albums from the 90s was Jodeci, Diary of a Madman. Again, every song from front to back, I'm sorry, pretty much perfection. So that's didn't like them that much, but I love this album. Great album. I think also every single song on this album, for all you kind of older school hip-hop lovers, E40 the Mailman, could not tell you how much I played this album out and still do. Perfect hip-hop album right there. Love everything on that one. It's definitely one of my favorites from the 90s. As well as Bone Thugs and Harmony, their first album, Creeping on the Come Up. This again is perfection from front to back. Every single song on it is absolutely great. And last two, Ice Cube Bootleg and B-Sides from 1994. Basically just kind of a bunch of remixes of a lot of his songs, but again, I think this is song for song, one of the best hip-hop albums to come out in the 90s, without question. And then also, I'm going to have to put in there Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet. Now, I would like to have thrown Nations of Millions in there, but that came out in '89, so they just missed the 1990 cutoff with that. And this was their piece that came out right after that. And again, just the incredible work that only Public Enemy can do. So, anyway, just kind of, going through a quick, digging through the stacks and pulling stuff out. Jeff, those are the albums that I think are some of the best standouts from the 90s. As always, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, BC.